if my what is that? If my in the Discord, if my video goes dark, just feel free to let me know if that's gone dark, and I'll kick it back in. Alexa go in hibernation mode when I'm running two streams. Other than that, I did have a new microphone, so if I'm obnoxiously loud, let me know. It's kind of catching my breathing. Work on that. But anyways, welcome to another week of Decoding with Dregz. Um, Last week I made a bit of a move across the country, so I wasn't able to rock one. But this time, here we are once again. So we're gonna go and jump in. Oh, we're gonna jump into Jupiter today. I'm gonna start off there. And typically, as always, a good reminder, the lines you see on my charts are previous calls that have been, well, called through Thor, and it's always fun to kind of see, through time what has hit, how the charts and market has reacted to some of those calls that have hit, or not have hit. Just kind of see where we're at and how to navigate the new ones coming through. Kind of like to start in that little lower time frame here. Got my Jupiter chart rocking here at the 1 day, but looking at the 15-minute time frame. I like to just, go through, make a simple TA as possible, just down and pretty much just what Thor has to say. Throw that and just draw some lines. Keeping it simple as possible sometimes is my favorite thing to do, especially when you have a powerful tool as Thor. It's really, really nice. Sometimes all you need is a couple lines, and Thor will be filling your bag. Of course, not all of this is financial advice. Past returns aren't indicative of future ones. But, anyways, I'm just a speaker of Thor, if you will. Um, Transcribing what I see and throwing it on the charts. Anyways, get right to it. Right now we got a fun one. I wanted to start with Jupiter. I was scanning a little bit beforehand, looking at the 15-minute time frame. We can see that there's a call at $1.09 lying in the upper hand side there, really touching where we're kind of hanging out there right now. We'll zoom in on the 2 hours. Throw that at like the 97. So we're like pretty much there. So we're dancing on that entry, right? So we got the entry there, and what we got here, price range. Let's see what kind of move we can make at the TP1 is always a good, being conservative about it. The 117. Oh, at minimum, it's calling for a 2% move and pushing to 13, so 2 to 3%, not too bad. Um, I may jump into that. We'll see what's good. Um, and we got a 20-cent call there too, just above one previous one up here. So kind of a local range. We're seeing that 9 cents, or I'd say 9 cents to 20 cents. Not bad. Did want to, I did kind of skip over it before I start drawing some new lines on the chart. It looks like, go back to the day, through the week. I guess the past couple weeks here, you see that there was a 16-minute short call, and I believe that probably sparked right around here or here. Looked like it hit pretty nice, which is always good to see. But I believe that's played out, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove that line. Just kind of shave it off. And even more fun was this $1.32 call short. Looks like we just barely, like by a small margin, missed that entry. But I don't have the ranges, I have lines, and usually draw those shorts a little higher. So I'd say Thor was pretty close to on the money with on that short call specifically, or a good sell point if you had a bag in spot and just wanted to DCA out or sell. It looks like I didn't really know the TPs on that, but I'm assuming we may have hit a few of those. I'm gonna increase this to an hour, just kind of run through a few. Now I'm gonna just list some things in the chart, what I see here. And we have a bit of a range from the long call at 1 hour. So as close as we are to that 15-minute long call, that could be a good little swing, seeing what's going on there. Maybe jump up to that, fill in that bar there. But I personally probably more interested in like that range where we're seeing the 16.3 for the long. But also, I think it's worthy to note that it's also got something at the 1.46. So in there, that's kind of like where I see that. It could touch there, or I'd probably be buying right between here, scooping up some more. I know there's quite a few calls on this right now. So when I look at this, I see you saw the 1 hour. This is replicating that 1 hour call, but I'm also seeing this right here too, which is the upper range. The upper range is the lower call there. So reality, this is kind of stretching as a buy zone, kind of enlarging that buy zone through here. For me, then I think this target of like $1 and 4 cents up there would be a good point for me to try and rock. I don't I don't exactly want to go too hard on this one right here. Of course, it's always a gamble. You could rock that, but I probably want to be leveraging hardcore onto something like that with calls so close right around here. Makes sense to see kind of a retracement down to there with how things are going at the moment, and especially when you have that 95-cent long call going here for Jupiter as well from 95 to 94. I like, again, to be a little conservative, but at least bumping it down in between the two. At least when I'm drawing it on the chart, you could be a little more, of course, precise when you're inputting that into a limit order or something like that. And then we had a previous call that 85 cents, but I don't think in the past 2 weeks we saw we saw that happen. It's gonna be funny. All right, 2 weeks ago was the 16th, just so I can not mess up on that. Yeah, so it doesn't look like the 85-cent hit within the last 2 weeks. Unless it pops up again, it's cool to have, but I'm not really seeing it there, so I'm gonna just remove that as well. We got some short calls as well. What's cool is we're seeing a repeat of one, or actually it's 501. So actually, this could be, actually, I think this is a similar call that didn't hit, so Thor is just keeping it live. Interesting, I did just erase that 85-cent line. That is an invalidation, and when we start getting to these higher time frames like 4 hour and 1 day, I like to draw those invalidation lines. I think this is a pretty decent one too, as it is an indicator of a nice support line. Hitting that kind of ruins, sorry, going below that kind of indicates the top motions might be readjusted as we broke a range. I think that 85 cents is a longer, higher time frame range that we're looking at. Check here, cool. I like to leave that there again, just so I know those invalidation lines. I've said this before. If you've been into some of these sessions previously, invalidation lines are really key. I find them to be Thor telling us where a key support or resistance is. So they're always my biggest indicator of a switch in kind of the whole flow or the range of which or direction where we're going. Gonna continue listing a few more, but since we never hit those, it was just like 515. So I think that is still a live call we had. And then the 204, yeah, looks like I put that in between a few. I'll just knock that down just a little bit because it's 92 cents. So I just couldn't get that right in the mid range. Now I'll go to 1 day. 1 day is also, I'm gonna go on the 1 day charts here too. We have the, what is that, $1.33, replicating the, yeah, a lot of this is just mimicking the 4 hour actually. So we have the confluence do 4 hour calls in the 1 day. You'll see some exist and some don't, which kind of for me makes it so I like this $1.04 and the 95 cents. When I look at that, you can have some fun swinging that 15-minute call, which, you know, usually turns out pretty decently sometimes. But if I'm doing a larger buy-in, I'm probably going to be buying in between that $1.04 or at that point in there too. And then definitely going hard. You'll see me going hard at that 94 cents if we do hit that. And then further, I do like to kind of buy on those invalidation lines too, as like a long or reversibly if invalidation for long would be up top. So speaking of, we have a, what is that, the 1 day long call saying an invalidation at $1.32. So when you have that $1.32 hanging out here, which is a short, but also an invalidation, um, that really puts some pressure into my um, confidence in this call hitting. But I have the hesitance in a way that if we do break it, that this would probably be that next step to go and watch out for. So if I went too hard here, I mean it's got the backup saying that's a strong invalidation line, but when you breach that, that could mean show signs that we are going to be breaking this larger range and going up further. That's what like Thor is trying to tell us at least. And so what you take from that is I had a nice from what I like. So I pick calls I kind of like. I see their invalidations in those higher time frames. This shows me that the range that Jupiter wants to hang out in is $1.32 and 85 cents. And you can see for the past month or 2 months, that's where we were at. We've been here for a while, and we're probably going to be dancing around in between those for a second. On the buys, I did mention before, you hit that, but you'll see me be a buyer on this lower edge here, and then more so at 94 cents. But yeah, hey, that's enough about Jupiter. I want to see, maybe what's going on with Pyth. No, we had some movement here, so let's see what we got. Come on. Nothing hanging out in the 15-minute, the 1 hour. We do have some 4 hour calls. Looking at what we had taken place, let's see, the 16th, so that's right around here. It looks like we did have an invalidation right around that short, just like I was speaking of with Jupiter. It did breach that 48-cent line, but as it would seem, and as you can see, it did come back down. So that's what I always mean to say it's a great indicator, but sometimes, it can fake you out like that too. But since that was a little different, what I see now is as of today, yeah, well, May 30th, there is a short call at the previous, just delete that, there's a short call at that invalidation line, and you can see that wick kind of nice resistance there coming back down. So we have, what is that, 48 cents and then a 56 cent. Be wonderful to see it go up there again. And I do, I guess I'll put it in between. So I'll just jot that down. Sometimes I do like to align those lines kind of where we see the charts uh, filling around too. And the 55 cents brings you right in between. So that makes sense for the range. You can always get a wick that goes higher, and sometimes that 1% variance will happen. But that's how you get, if you're doing heavy leverage, that's where you end up getting liquidated. And it's a PvP game. We're playing, uh, trading, so you got people that do want you to be liquidated. It's just the way it works. The powers that be playing us. Let's see, got a lower call at 34 cents. Looks like that's still hanging out from a couple weeks ago, which invalidated but got recalled. So that's why I do like leaving signs up here. Um, oh, that sorry, I misspoke. The 34.9 is hanging out there. Looks like this was the range. I probably did two lines as this range, which makes sense. And a new call at 37 cents. Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and draw that nice little green line here. And what would happen here? Why did I have this? Probably was an invalidation, and I'm curious. It would be cool to see that. You see how that invalidation did get bounced off of. Well, that was after this week, so it did break through that, and you did see a larger movement go down once it breached that point. But it's breached before. I could delete it, but it looks like it kind of bounced off again. And see if I get a 1-day call with that. No, so I mean I'm all right with taking that guy off. And since this is a 1-day, we're gonna look at this. So 35 seems to be its invalidation. What's 35 for? And can you guess where it might be? Yeah, the tail end of that little wick here. So I do draw these. So if this 37 cents is a great buy-in for that long, it makes sense for there. It goes down further, it may bounce off. So this 34-cent call breaking down could be another one, but what I see here is a good DCA action too, especially when things are clustered really tight. Um, we could see a lot of action going through those. So I try maybe to DCA, get a little heavier, and then maybe leverage once we're down at the very bottom. Just an idea. But with those 1 days, I really enjoy seeing those hit. Speaking of 1 days, we're gonna go check out our read'em. This was a fun play. I am currently in. We're gonna just skip everything and check it out. So we had what happened. Let's see. Could maybe clear some lines here on the board. Let's clean up our stuff here. Okay. We don't have many very clean. Wow. I like it. Let's see. Cool. I guess I had the 88 cents because that was the bottom range for this, but realistically, where I purchased in was right around that 98-cent line to catch. On to this long here. I think I bought it right through here, so I did incur that dip, but I'm pretty sure I was trying to hit buying at 90 cents, so I didn't get to stack in more. The 92 would have been great, but I did just leave that on here just to watch that wick and remind me that 92 cents could be revisited if we went down further. The 5 cents seemed to have played decently on that wick and went down, so I believe this play is already played out. We hit that, we went down, and re-entered that 1-day call and went back up. So I'll go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to look at the 4-hour, which is my TP. So let's look at the 1 day. It has a TP1 at 56 cents, $1.56, 72 and 88. That's awesome. Because I mean, if we're just saying a dollar, making the math easy, that's 58%, 72%, and 88% move. I love to see that on a 1 day call. Beautiful. And we can see it working out to our favor currently. What's not on the board was the $1.20 short. That kind of, we see that dancing around that line, that resistance zone, and of course it rejected it, as we can see here. We don't have much of a call at the moment for those, but we can see that it's bouncing on a long, and I think there was a previous long. I wasn't here last week to really be on it, but there was a long call around like that 11 cents, 14 or something, and you can see the wicks dancing there too, kind of going up again there. And what I see is we could, hit that 5 cents again too. At $1.05, it kind of makes sense if we were to have some more lower action. We could see maybe that retest of this long entry. So definitely check that out. Keep your eyes on it. Good fat movements could be in your favor. So, sadly, I wasn't around to maybe take a little off my trade at the 20 cent and kind of recycle it down through here. But something I would have done, especially at that $1.20. My personal TP is going to be at that around that TP1, 56 cents. Definitely a good one, or maybe I put it at the $1.49. Kind of front run some stuff sometimes too is pretty nice. Probably shave off a bit there. Oh, sorry, let's see. Shave off a bit there. And a big reason is because there's a 4 hour short call. Sorry, just getting over a bit of a cold. But yeah, we got the $1.50 hanging out, which supports that $1, or sorry, that 1 day call. I really love to see when there is a TP and a short, they kind of support each other in that way. A bit of confluence, especially when you see that TP3, or I'd say that $1.20, which hangs between that $1.18 and $1.25. Which is a great reentry to scalp. Getting the oscillations is one of the better things I could do as a trader. Catching those movements. I mean, you already got. If you were to play that out, that'd be a 50% play. Go back down, retest those zones. Maybe we have more calls in the future, but for me, I like to see that. That's something I would like to. These are almost like DCA back in. If I were to sell here, this is where I'm DCAing back into my long call. Or it could bust up and go to these other points. But for me, it's kind of looking like that. It's kind of I see that just with the support of that short call. Sorry, and bigger movements on Arboretum, so means nicer swings. Let's make sure this Discord is still live up. Nice. And I think it's time we check out what's going on with Solana. Nice. Let's leave that cursor there, the 16 where we last spoke. Yeah, During that time, we saw a nice little jump, a welcomed one. Uh, and Solana, oof, didn't even see that, but looks like it iced that 186 short call beautifully. Looks like it was recalled. It looks like it whatever happened around the 16th, we're seeing that again. So again, I'm not going to remove that. I'm going to leave that there. We have a 180 as well. Worthy of labeling. A lot of calls kind of get people all mixed up sometimes too. 92. I think that 170 is gone, but I'm just going to go run through some. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get rid of that. And it looks like that 164 was an invalidation line. Thinking that almost was a invalidation for a long calls in the bottom here, which yeah, oh yeah, pretty sure that's what it was. So what you can see there too is it busted through that, and once we did breach that, we did have some nicer movements where we hit those short calls, and then uh, moved our way back down. And what you'll see a lot of times too is that support or resistance turning to support, or vice versa, support turning to resistance. So where it was a resistance line is now acting, looking like a support. Oosh. And what would we do now? So we're gonna check out some more invalidations. I believe I'm not really seeing any of these lower 120s, like a 128, 121, and 110. Yeah, I'm just checking to make sure. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and scrape it. And we're gonna clean this up a little bit. We got a lot of stuff, so we're gonna see what is important and what is not. The 68 line. See, we've been seeing this for weeks now. Um, re Repeated calls for a long around that 85 and 68 dollar range. It's always a little scary to see, but I mean, as much as I'd like to ignore it, it's good to have in the back of your mind. Doesn't mean Thor's going to immediately go there. It just means if we do reach that point, this is what you can expect to see. What's as discouraging as it is to see something like that, what encourages me is that fat range. Look at that. It's almost if we hit there, Thor say you'll make what was that on the TB2 about like 100 or yeah, yeah, it's a double up. So I mean, if we did hit that and you were big brained and had Thor, you just caught on a very nice swing there as well. Very, very good buy if that happened. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna be hitting there anytime soon. So we're on the 1 day. I'm gonna be looking at the 144 and 142. So kind of look at my lines there. Put a green. And maybe inch it down to where these guys, this Wix is, and give it a nice seat. And it can really be as simple as that. Just seeing where these bars are filling, where are they sitting, and you got yourself some pretty cool entry points here. Oh, I'll bust it up a little more. If we did hit that, I would hate to miss that long call for sure. We got. I mean, the 1 days is not even shouting out lower ones. We're talking like 202, 228, 270. Yes, please. But again, I should look at those higher ones. Where is it invalidating? 118, 118, 118. Anything above 200 is saying that 118. Oh, look at that. is our short invalidation line. This is really important. So I could say if in this case, just looking at it how it is now, I know there's some other long calls, but we have the 142 on the 1 day, and you went pretty hard. If you wanted to leverage, I view this information as such. We see that 118. I would make sure my liquidation is above that 118 point because there is that chance that we could be testing that. It's not exactly likely, but it could happen. And taking that frame of mind when we're doing like lower time frames, it's really key because I've actually been really seeing how sometimes we do test those zones and bounce off of it and then continue on with a call. But when it tests those zones, you end up getting liquidated pretty nicely, easily. This one, it's a pretty fat one, so I mean, you wouldn't go too hard. But it kind of makes more sense again with the if you're doing lighter leverage or if you're doing a higher one on a shorter time frame. Let's see here. Maybe I can get an example. So yeah, let's look at the 180, and then you have 160 there as well. Let's see. Let's see. Get my frame right here. Yeah, so you got the 180 short, and you wanted to hit that. Okay, I should be saying 183. Nice, nice. That's what I was trying to say. So it's kind of inverted. So we're taking that short that's going on here, and a good testing point. I feel like if we hit 180, you might see it try to bounce off that support at 183 on this lower time frame. And typically it might, you know, differentiate the colors of invalidations. Um, but for the sake of this, we're just gonna leave it. So yeah, around 183, 185, even you want to be a little more liberal with that, so you're gonna push it up a bit more. We might try to retest that wick here. Um, my kind of try to put you on the winning side of the trade, if especially if you're trying to do leverage. It it makes sense to make sure you're above that. Make sure you're above that if you're trying to do something like that. Because I've seen a lot where it tests that and then you'll be liquidated and then it continues back down. So this is just invalidations. I would say they're not bold, but they should be. I feel like this is so very important, those invalidation lines, when we're very close to them. I see the price action dancing around that in a way that is very convincing that we should be paying attention to that. And so when you take that trade at 180, let's say, and it bounces off the 183, and we go back down to, well, where we're at right now, that 166. And then inversely, you could take that frame of mind inversely, right? So you got what's it, the long one here? Let's see. It's a valid at 160. Let's see. You got the 160 long, that invalidation. That invalidates this one here. But it doesn't really cross over. So sometimes it doesn't always necessarily work like that. But it's what I mean to say is it's something good to pay attention to or be aware of as an extra piece of information you could use that just keeps your trade and your bag with you and healthy. So I do like this 1 hour, where we're dancing here. I guess I'm just waiting for that breach down to maybe see that 152 call come through. Again, some nice DCAs, maybe spot here, maybe load up a little heavier here, see that movement. But the 1 hours are pretty fun if I'm doing some day trading. Curious, I feel like this becomes more, you should be more aware of these two once we've breached that 164.8. Because I think that was the previous. resistance zone. I think I'm seeing that here too. Yeah, 163.5. So, like, let's take a conversation. We'll just bust this down to around that number. So, yeah. So, breaching that 163, we could see that 152, erasing a few of these 4-hour short calls. And what that tells me then too is we do have a nice range. Oops, I should have deleted that. Oh, oh well. Where is that? 183. Yeah, I put it around 183. And so the point here is sometimes those invalidations give me a good range. So this, oh, ignore this guy, but we did this on higher time frames. So 118 and 183 is where we're saying we're probably going to be range bound in for a bit. And then you look back since, what is that, May? Well, May 15th, we've been through that. You see it bounce off there. You see it going, kind of getting some resistance here, going through here a little bit and pushing down there too. So we do have a decent range, and without doing a bunch of TA, I can look at this and say where we'll probably be dancing in between for a bit. Of course, when it breaches those, we're going to have to change our mindset. We're going to be getting ready for some of those shorts or scaling out. And then at the same time at the bottom, if we did breach that 118, I don't know. I'm sure we'll have some more calls popping up, but I'm start really looking at that $68 as it might be forming a newer range. But these are the ones that there's a lot of numbers, a lot of calls here. So you're gonna have to see the ranges. This is a small range. That's right through there. So I don't know. I would say maybe the 92 to 196. So I would bunch them together or combine them because it looks like their TP is right really close to the same range, has a few calls, but when they're that close, just be aware that you could maybe rock the 190 and then that 196 or 197 as I just clump those together and call that a big box, one of those big old boxes you would see here, which kind of looks like up here, but you get the idea. Once they do that, this is just a big sell range, is what Thor's saying. Of course, it'd be wonderful if we hit the 270. Yeah, 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 it's pretty good for the what we got for Soul, a solid range. So it's been kind of choppy too. So I'm kind of waiting for some better movements here. Uh, Give me better indications of where we make it going. But since we're dancing around here, I'm not really taking any trades at the moment. I've been watching. Arboretum's the only one I've really been jumping on. I've been busy too, so kind of trying to get back into the flow of this myself. Again, that's why Thor kicks ass because I'm able to be gone for a week or so, jump back in, throw some lines on the chart, and see where the hell we stand. Because I get lost in the noise really quick, and sometimes I don't like to pay attention to it a lot too, because we all got stuff going on in our normal lives. I think it was on to BTC. Yeah, we'll start with the simpler chart at the 4-hour line, the 4-hour calls. I was going to see some. Excuse me, sorry. Sorry. Dang runny nose. Sorry. And let's see. All right. So May 16th is where we last spoke. Again, that was right when that nice uptick. Looks like we blew through a few. I mean, that 60 call looks solid. You can see some previous another invalidation line was above that other long call. So that's why I do like those invalidations. We might still have some there. I shouldn't just be going deleting everything just yet, but let's see where the next one is. They're saying 61, almost like 62K to 61.5. And then I'm gonna run through. Oh, damn. Okay. Whoa. All right, we're gonna keep it here for a sec. Go ahead, delete this. And what's that? 61.9, 5. Pump it up to 61.5. I like that. So pump that there. Encouraged by this 4-hour call that was made a couple days ago, 3 days ago. Now let's go here. It looks like there's some interesting calls going on. This kind of got invalidated, it seems. The 73, we still have that. And of course, as you see, we hit that 70, busted above it though. So people who went a little too hard there, if you leveraged, are having a bad time. May have had a bad time. But if you didn't, you're looking really nice. And it looks like we're supposed to be going back down. Look at that. TP3 is 61.5, and that's 4. Well, it's right around our 61.5 long call. That's awesome. And yet, almost makes me want to still think I can jump in on that short too as we push down. Looks like we breached the invalidation for some long calls when we went above the 66.9. It's acting as a nice support, it seems, right now, that little range there. That's cool. Probably leave that up, but I'm not. I think I'll just be aware of it visibly. I just want to take a look at what's going on here. Damn. Say damn because look at that 44K call, 33, 17K. Okay, Capo. This is pretty wild. But, let's see where that invalidation lies too. I'm gonna draw him just cause hey, Thor suggested it. So I should just be aware. So where do we have to go to get rid of those off the chart is a 71.9. So about 72K is our most like a more critical seemingly invalidation there too. The short calls have one at 656.5, which I had already put there. So what we see here looks like those are some pretty intense calls for the longs. I want to worry about that. Maybe start thinking about the 44 after the 56 is breached. Before that, we have to see how we do at the 61.5K. That this is going to be pretty telling if this fails. Oof, maybe that's what happens. It's all over. Go home. But you would think that, but come on. I mean, if it did that and it's saying that's a almost a, that one's not a 3x, but damn near a 3x, like a 2.5x. That's pretty wild. So even if we hit those marks, it's not all over, right? Store's saying we hit those marks and we see we'll be coming right back to where we were, just 10K under where we are now, about. So there would be a fat retrace, and you would be emotionless because you have Thor telling you this amazing recovery that would happen after hitting some of those zones. you know, Sometimes it's too soon to be seeing that, but like I say, it's good to be aware of it. But that's why I do love having those other indicators showing me because it seems like our range is 56.5 to 72. 72K, 56.5. That's our range. That's what we'll be going through, which still means I'd still take the 61.5K call because that's a TP for the 1 day call that hit at 70K. So pretty badass when it all comes together like that. Lower calls, but you have the confidence to take these trades because Thor is just really supporting some ideas that we're seeing on the chart. And without any TA, I mean, I'm sitting here just drawing what Thor says, and I think I have some badass charts. Some people who would run TA for like 10, 15, 30 minutes plus trying to find good trades. I just did that in under 10 minutes. It could be masterful once you really understand how to utilize this. But again, those invalidation lines, those, again, I can't emphasize it enough that these are really important to be looking at. If we're if the market is a river or some kind of ocean always flowing, well, the invalidation lines are our headwinds. It really says if we breach something, this is really where we're going. So again, that's why I like to have them up and follow them closely. So we went through a bunch of those guys. Almost been an hour now. I don't know if anyone had any particular coins they wanted a more in-depth look at. Maybe we got 33 coins that have all, yeah, they all have a call. XRP, WIF, SWI, Solana BTC, Render, uh, Doge, Bonk. Yeah, if anyone has a suggestion or shout out for a coin to look into, feel free. Or also just keep going through some other coins. So while I check the chat real quick. Oops. Nope, nope, all right. Sweet. Well, let's see. And because we had an interesting lot of calls on the BTC and Solana, I do like to follow. Check out that Sol BTC. Where are we at? Because I do. That's another fat trade I have going right now. I always have that bag rotating. Uh, I know Thordnell doesn't have those auto trader for the Sol BTC. Waiting on that liquidity to come through on Solana to make it more ease of use and make it just work as it should. But doesn't mean we can't do it ourselves. So it's been a sec since I looked at it. And I think what you're seeing is some previous points that I like to leave on the chart, and they've been there since like May 1st, April 30th, yeah, the 28th. That's my big. These are gold. There's my long-term like goal lines here, and these are short calls. That's where I'm taking a lot of things that I've entered in around the 21. Or I entered in previous longs around the 25, 22, and even that 20. I bought some more, switched back into use BTC to buy Solana at the 0.002 line. And we're seeing another call at the let's see, 2.1. So I'm just going to go ahead and lower this one down, 2.17. So you may be wondering why this could be low. I think this is going to be so, that 0.009, that's wild. Honestly, this would mean Solana significant either BTC drops as it does. Maybe they both, maybe Solana goes to 68 and then BTC hits that like 38, 44 zone. And then we see maybe a some correlation between this call here as it dips. Where would I? Somewhere between, but I'll just put it at the top. Why not? That'd be wild because again, we're seeing almost a double at that TP3. A nice 100% swing. That would be pretty incredible, but of course you got that 26, 27, pretty much around here would be where we would invalidate that. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just where that last wick hit the top would invalidate this one. So since it's so low, and we did it before here too, I'm just gonna draw that there, which is 60. Yeah, yeah. Look at that, easy. So honestly, back here we see these 1-day calls are saying the invalidation is 0.002. Hmm. Yeah, it's a thinker. It makes me wonder for sure. Just depends on, we're kind of caught in the middle there. So the RSI is looking pretty decent there as well. Last time we've reached this point, I do like to use the RSI as an indicator. It's a simple one too. It just says, hey, we're revving up pretty hot, oversold, or I mean overbought, or we're really cold, the oversold. And usually, as you can see, it always does that back and forth motion pretty nicely. So I do like to have that as an indicator in my general buying and selling trading. Trading this, yeah, I'm obviously hoping we get to that 28 or 30. Be wonderful. But, having it go down like this makes you wonder either everything goes down together, Solana stays where it's at, and BTC hits those uh, lower calls we saw, all the way down to like 17 or 44. I think that's where we start seeing this guy pop up if BTC did that. Or if Solana jumps up to the 200 plus range, we could also, and then BTC goes down, and then Solana gains dominance over the BTC. This is what would end up happening. And then we did see that if it did hit those lower BTC calls, those longs, it does recover according to the TPs. Um, that's what we see that bounce back up here. It's so far down that I'm not too concerned, but it's good again to have that visible for you. You always wonder what the future will bring, but I personally like the 21 and 20 range. I'd honestly I've already been put in a little bit of a bag here too, so maybe I can hope we hit that invalidation line. If we did hit that invalidation, actually that might be one of my TP1s, TP2, and then TP3 at the 30. So I'd start to shave off here a little bit just in case we go down and get rejected. I'll have more dry powder to kick in and when we revisit those lows, which is always pretty nice. But as of now, we're just kind of waiting on some larger movement. Just kind of waiting around, like I said before. Just kind of waiting for some larger movements to incur. I know Bonk's been doing its thing too, so I think one of the last ones we'll go through here is Bonk, and we had some good calls. I mean, we had repeated calls at the 24, the 20, and I was gone, but a lot of calls were popping up in the past couple months for the 20, and then that 18. It did bust below that. I didn't do that. I think I actually bought more around the 20 or 21 zone here. Went down. I just looked away. I was just like, oh damn, oh whatever. I have other trades to hit and worry about. So whatever. Thankfully, it recovered. Woo! I wasn't here last week to get some lines to see, where it hit, but I know there were a couple around shorts around that 42 or that 4 zone. Oh, right now, what do we got right now? We might be live in the chat right now. Oh yeah. 33.7. 33.7. We're just gonna go hit it right here. Yeah. Looks like a nice little 15. Doesn't look like it's too much of a bounce back. It was a TP 349 or 3447. 34. Yeah, 7 would be right around here. Which would be a TP for that call there. Which I always like to run the price range. This is a 3%, so nothing too crazy, but a typical 15 minute call. You do have some going below. So what I did was I took the top one there, and they're all relatively close, so I'll do a 31. So you kind of got that box through here of a good range to buy. They were all made at the same date, and the invalidation is 0.0035. And they're only 15-minute calls, but that's all we have to play with at the moment. And the validation for this is 338. So this short is very close to getting invalidated as we're literally at 338, yeah, 997 in smaller decimal points, but so that might pop away. Might have a few here. It looks like what I would see from this one is it could just be going down up here, they're doing a lower high, and then just kind of descending down a bit. Maybe hitting this call, hitting that TP, maybe testing the resistance, and then descending down a bit. Maybe even hitting the 32, jumping up a bit, and then jumping down to the 31 and going up again to the 34. So each time you get those, lower highs. But yeah, doing that. So this is kind of the range I would like to play. I tried to go in on that 31. Yeah, that was definitely an impressive move this recently. What we saw bonk beat that it went through. It's always fun to see those calls live, but curious. It could jump up a bit, but again, it wouldn't surprise me jumping up a few percents for bonk and then dropping down a bunch more. And yeah, of course, another favorite. I think unless anyone has any other coins they want to chat about, I think we'll leave it off with a good old render or rinder, however you want to pronounce it. Of course, it's render. Let's see, we're gonna start. Where do we have the 16? Okay, the 16. We did not hit this nor the 7.3. Must have been a little higher when was it? Sorry, I'm just trying to retrace our steps. Yeah, we must have been a bit up here. Huh, I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this one. Must have been a previous one. So we have a short at 15 minute for a 10.46. Very small range. So maybe a good if I was leveraged into a long trade, that's where I'd kind of shave off a bit of that leverage, leave some room. Reason why I haven't really jumped back in, I love trading render, but I haven't jumped back in because I'm seeing that 7.6 it a, see, let's go 7.6. We'll pump this up a little bit then. Go ahead and usually I like to keep that one, but right now I'm thinking they're all validated, so I like to get this range right here. This call makes sense to me. Just from following it for a while, would make sense to see render come back up from the depths. You know, that would be a 21 at TP1. TB2 is 34%. Definitely something I like, and its accessibility on some trading sites make it so you can make a little bit more out of it. So yeah, I'm a buyer at 7.6. We do have this invalidation that I put a few weeks ago, probably from this short call at 6.8 validation would destroy the top side movement, or a little more topside short calls that they got going here. 11.88 invalidates this 7.6. So I'm just going to bust this up a little bit. 11.88. Yeah. Yep, 11.88. That's kind of where we see that top dancing on that last little surge wick that happened. What was that? Yeah, not too long ago, last week. So kind of seeing the movement here, you can see this must be some decent resistance at 9.7, which was the previous long call. Not here anymore, but that's all right. Since I don't have anything but this, for me, sorry, you have other, you could probably make a good buy around here. But from what, if I'm using Thor and what it's telling me, there might be another coin, there might be another call that's closer and more um, I would say sturdy, but a little more real for what I'd want. The issue with that, if I bought here, is just with that like around that zone too, dipped all the way down to here, and then I had to work my bag up again. Wasn't the most fun, but now I realize that when I had all that capital held up, it may have been better for me to hit another trade that was closer to that 1 day call or a 4 hour rather than riding those 1 hour 15s too hard. And then it kind of descended down. I had to use other short time frame calls to get my bag looking good again, but it just took some extra work. So I like to take it easy sometimes too, and that's why I've just got some longs here and at the 6.8 even too. But honestly, yeah, I'm would probably put that down there. I'd do the 7.6 and then buy some more at 7.4. So that makes sense for that. 7.6 you buy a bit. 7.4 you have some other limit orders, and just hope hey, we rock back on up and retrace that movement. But here again, you see that we have a decent range of like 11.8 and 6.8. And if we're doing a pool boy conversation, if you did run a pool, that's where I try to keep it around. Just curious. Probably a quick look. Let's just see a quick look at ETH BTC. You know? Oh, hey. That's why it's always fun to traverse some charts there. The ETH BTC pair, it looks like we are around their long call at the 15-minute. Very short range, so nothing too exciting for me. Reinforced by the hour. But we have a low and little lower too. 5.4. Ooh, that is. Yeah, so the 4 hour is reinforced with the 1 hour right here. So yeah, that's definitely. I would much rather maybe this. Oops, this guy here. which would say that a BTC will have a bit more dominance on that. Ooh, damn. Okay. Oh, when was that made? Okay, 16th. So yeah, when you see something that gets this close to the box, sometimes I view that as a play that, you know, Thor was pretty damn close for that call. I like to think that this move is getting played out. It just got front run a little bit. It happens. It gets front run a bit, and the variance is very small, but the idea was there. Could we do it again? Yes, but once a play like that happens, especially on the one days, it's not unlikely to revisit that point. But again, I feel like it's kind of already done. It's doing what Thor had suggested, and it kind of coincides with some of those other calls. But that's why I would do the lower one here. The 51 is a TP2 for that short, and then you can see a 51 and 50 long on the 4 hour. That's pretty important. Um, when doing that is looking at other calls, seeing the confluence in different time frames, and then the TPs of a short or longs being an entry for their inverse. Like I was saying before, one day looks like it pretty much hit. There's a TP2 and 1 calling for these numbers here, which has Thor saying that's probably where we're going to meet some resistance in a good buy zone to switch back. I don't trade ETH BTC pair very much. Just focus on the Sol BTC just because I do. They're my favorites, my favorite long term bags. So why not just trade back and forth between those? Guess we'll take a quick look at W. Not too much going on there, but you have a simple range. I think of that 75 short, 72. Going back to around where we are now, or a long call. So I'm a heavy buyer at a 37 cents if we get there. Um, it becomes validated at 64 cents, but it's pretty good to be aware of, especially when there's no other calls sitting around. So you get that 75 at the top, and they're all still kind of being range bound, but that puts us back to where we are currently. So yeah, that's W. I think went through a bunch of the really popular calls that I know I'm into personally, but again, if anyone did have anything else to say, or anything they want to add, or any questions, feel free. You can also look into a coin you're interested in as well. Dope, dope. Well, yeah. Let's see if we got check the chat. Nothing going on there today. Sweet. Oh, well, cool. I think that's probably a great stopping point for today. We got a good hour in, ran through a bunch of calls. We got to see some ranges in Sol, BTC, um, Pyth, Jupiter, and many more. Um, some calls that I'm into, and some proper ranges to keep in mind. But sweet, yeah. I appreciate you all stopping by for this week of Decoding with Dregz. And yeah, I'll be seeing you all next week. Keep it real, and as always, frogs fuck.